Hi, I'm Corinne Casazza. I'm a writing mentor, ghostwriter, and best-selling author. Today, I want to talk to you about removing limiting beliefs around writing. So, removing limiting beliefs. These limiting beliefs really keep us stuck and away from the page. And they are things that get you stuck not only in writing, but in every aspect of your life. You just get mired in this false belief and you can't move forward or have any momentum. I like to say that limiting beliefs are like a boa constrictor. This came to me one night when I was watching Jimmy Kimmel. So Jimmy Kimmel is a late night talk show host that we have here in the States. He had an animal expert on, and the animal expert came out with this huge boa constrictor wrapped around his shoulders. And he came out and wrapped it around Jimmy's neck, and Jimmy was horrified. You could see he was so frightened. His eyes were popping out of his head about this snake around him. And then the animal expert proceeded to explain that the way a boa constrictor kills its prey is by wrapping itself around the animal. And every time the animal takes a breath, every time it inhales, the snake constricts tighter. So it was really using your own breath against it and squeezing the life out of it with its breath. And I really feel that's what these limiting beliefs do. They just squeeze the life right out of us, right? They keep us stuck. We can't move forward. And the worst of it is, these beliefs aren't even true. They are stories that we tell ourselves. And we tell them, and we tell them, and we tell them. And with repetition comes power, right? So they get reinforced because we're telling ourselves these things over and over. And it's just not so. So these beliefs, these false beliefs, become our reality. So we need to remember when we have these that we are really whole and perfect as we are. We just have a bunch of beliefs covering us over that we need to remove and get back to our heart and our essence and the truth of who we are. So how do we do that? Well, I'll tell you. So first I want to tell you though, my biggest limiting belief when I'm writing is I don't know. So I don't know how to start. I don't know what happens next. I don't know how to get my character out of trouble. And that's a big problem because when you're writing fiction, the character needs to get into trouble and in conflict because only conflict is interesting, right? There has to be something to resolve. And if I don't want to get her into trouble, I can't get her out, right? If I'm afraid to get her if I think that I can't get her out of trouble, I'm afraid to get her into trouble. And then the other big piece of this one is I don't know how it ends. And so you're not supposed to know how it ends, especially when you're working with fiction. You have to trust that it's going to unfold in the way that it unfolds. We talked about trust a little bit yesterday. So when I have this belief, I don't know, I realize that it's not the truth. And I tell myself, it's not true. And sometimes I can just say that it's not true and set it to the side. And sometimes just the act of setting it to the side like that releases it. And I let it go. And then I can start to hear what I'm supposed to be writing. We talked a little bit yesterday about the fact that I'm clairaudient. So I hear what I'm writing. And so I can set it aside and just hear it, what I'm supposed to write. But when you have these beliefs, set them aside and then just know that if you are compelled or have these urges to write, have these whispers, there's a reason you're being called to it. And it's, from your God essence, your source, whatever label you choose to give it, it's from something outside our little three-dimensional selves. And there's a reason that you're being called to do it. And most likely, if you're watching me in this moment, the reason is that because you want to serve others, help others, and make a difference in their lives. So just go with it. When you start to push those aside and words start to come to you, just go with the flow. So I want to mention a few other common limiting beliefs around writing, and you might have encountered some of these if you've ever wanted to write. And believe me, I had more than one. So some other common ones are, I'm not good enough. My writing is not good enough. I have nothing new to say. I'm not an expert. No one will listen to me. No one cares what I have to say. Here's another big one. It's difficult to write a full-length book, and I'll never finish it. So of course, if you have all this stuff going around in your head, you know, it's just easier not to write. You may not even do it at all. So I want to tell you about how one of mine got resolved. I also had I'm not an expert. So I was putting a class together when I lived in Sedona, and I was freaking out that I wasn't going to get an audience because I'm not an expert, right? And so I'm putting the class together and I'm having this thought, and I'm like, you know, it's not true, but I worked with the Sedona method vortex release that I'm going to show you in a moment. And I felt like I released the belief, and you'll know what I mean when we do the work. You know, you feel like you have a little more space to breathe. So I did this technique, and the very next day, I got an email from someone who said, I wanted to ask you this question, since you're an expert, and she was asking me a writing question. So that to me was a big confirmation, validation that I had, in fact, moved that belief out. So those are some of the things that you can look for in your own life, little signs that, you know, you've moved on and pushed past something. So I mentioned the Sedona method vortex release. The Sedona method is a technique to release your emotions in the moment. And I really like it because it's simple, it's easy, it's painless. You don't have to relive any of the trauma of an event that you might have gone through. I came across it when I lived in Sedona. I was fortunate enough to work at the Sedona method and learn the technique there. At the time that I was there, my mother back in Boston was transitioning, and I felt very guilty that I was in Sedona and my mom was not well in Boston. And there were days when I would be at my desk just about in tears. And Hal Dwoskin, the best-selling author of the Sedona Method, would walk into the office, take one look at me, and say, do you want to release, Corinne? And I'd say, yeah. And I'd go into his office, and within 5 minutes, he would have me laughing. And that's how quick and effective the method is. And he helped me realize that, you know, this was my mom's journey, and I was there as a witness and to support her. And I also had to come to peace with the fact that I could be in Sedona when she transitioned, or I could be on my way to Boston. And I did make my peace with all that, but it turned out that I was with my mom when she transitioned. That was a great gift. So, all right, so let's talk about the Sedona method vortex release. So this might be a little counterintuitive because I'm going to ask you to embrace the belief. And so really, it's when we resist something that it persists, right? So if you actually welcome in the belief, it's going to dissipate and resolve. So now, let's have you bring up a limiting belief of your own. Could be one of the ones I just talked about. I'm not good enough. My writing isn't good enough. I have nothing new to say. I'm not an expert. It's difficult to write a full-length book. Whatever that is for you, bring that up and listen to what I'm going to say as if, you know, with the intention of letting go of this belief, all right? All right. So you can close your eyes, please. And now, bring up any thoughts, pictures, sensations, sounds, and feelings that go along with this belief. Can you welcome those in? Can you just embrace them? Can you let them dissolve and release as they do? And now, can you bring up the backstory of this belief? Any judgment, criticism, conclusions, opinions? Oh my God, what does it mean about me? Any guilt, shame, or blame? Can you just welcome these in? Can you embrace them? Can you let them spin and dissolve as they do? And one more time, can you bring up any thoughts, pictures, sensations, sounds, and feelings that go along with your belief? Can you welcome those in? Can you just embrace them? Can you allow them to spin and dissolve as they do? And now bring up the backstory of that belief. Any judgment, criticism, conclusions, opinions, any shame, any blame, any guilt. Can you just welcome it all in? Can you just embrace it all? And let it all spin and dissolve as it does. Okay. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And check in with yourself and see how you feel. See if you have a little more space and you feel a little more confident about getting in front of that PC. I hope that you do. So I do personal sessions for people to remove limiting beliefs, and I use this technique and other techniques. I also use little NLP, a little tapping, and I also like to input new beliefs that are for your highest good. So I work on that with people. And I think that's about what I wanted to cover for today. Yep. Okay, and I just want to mention again for this week, I have the offer of a free consultation with me. You can get on a call with me and just talk about what projects you have going on and how I could help you, or you can send me up to 10 pages of a chapter that you've written, and I will edit those pages and we can hop on a video call and I will give you feedback. And if you're interested in that, you can just send me a Facebook inbox, private message. All right, that's it for me. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks.